Lesson 5.1, percent increase and decrease. Percent can be used to describe change, and it is shown as a ratio and called the percent change. A percent change may be an increase or a decrease. To find the percent change, we use this equation. The percent change is equal to the amount of change over the original amount, and then we multiply by 100 because percent is always out of 100. To find the amount of change, we always take the greater value and then subtract the lesser value. Let's look at a few examples. Example number 1 on your page says this: Amber got a raise and her hourly wage increased from $8 to $9.50. What is the percent increase? Okay, so first, let's find the amount of change. To find the amount of change, take the greater value minus the lesser value. Well, she went from $8 to $9.50, and so if we take those two numbers, $8 and $9.50, which one's the greater value? Well, that would be $9.50, okay, that's the greater value, minus the lesser value of $8, and we know $9.50 minus 8 is equal to $1.50, okay, so that is the amount of change, $1.50. To find the percent change, we take the amount of change, which we just found is $1.50. We take that in our numerator, okay, and then we divide by the original amount, which the original amount was $8, right? That's what her hourly wage was. So the amount of change, $1.50, over the original amount of 8, $1.50 divided by, that's what the fraction bar means, right? $1.50 divided by 8, and then times 100 because percent is out of 100. Okay, so obviously this is a percent increase because we're going from $8 to $9.50, so our amount is increasing. And so we have a percent increase of, and we are told to round to the nearest whole percent. So $1.50 divided by 8 times 100, rounded to the nearest whole percent would be 19%. Okay, so the percent increase is 19%. Example number 2 on your paper. It says David moved from a house that is 89 miles away from his workplace to a house that is 51 miles away from his workplace. What is the percent decrease in the distance from his home to his workplace? So first, letter A, let's find the amount of change. The amount of change. Well, he goes from 89 miles away to 51 miles away. And so if we consider those two numbers, 89 and 51, let's take the greater value, 89, and subtract the lesser value, 51. And we know 89 minus 51, that would be 38, okay? So our amount of change is 38. Now, to find the percent change, of course, we use this equation. We take the amount of change, which we just found is 38, and we divide by the original amount. So the amount of change, 38, divided by the original amount, and the original distance was 89 miles, right? 89. We take the amount of change, 38, and divide by the original amount, 89, and then we multiply by 100 because percent is always out of 100. And so 38 divided by 89 times 100, and we round to the nearest whole percent. The nearest whole percent would be 43%. And again, this is a decrease, right? This is a percent decrease because the amount of miles that his house is from his workplace has decreased from 89 to 51. And how much of a decrease is it? It's a 43% decrease. Example 3. Okay, in example 3 it says a clothing salesman sold 25 shirts his first day on the job and 45 shirts on the second day. So first let's find the amount of change. To find the amount of change, I take the greater value, which in this case is 45, and I subtract the lesser value, which is 25. And we know 45 minus 25 is 20. Okay, so the amount of change is 20. Now, to find the percent change, of course, we're using this equation. The amount of change, which in this case is 20, divided by the original amount, and then multiply by 100. Okay, so the amount of change, 20, divided by the original amount. The original amount is how many shirts he sold on the first day, which was 25. Okay, so 20 divided by 25, and then we multiply by 100 because percent is always out of 100. 20 divided by 25 times 100, you will see that this is a percent increase of 80%. It's an 80% increase, right? Because the value is increasing from the first day to the second day. So 80% increase. One more example, example 4, and this one is slightly different. It says the grizzly bear population in Yellowstone National Park in 1970 was about 270. Over the next 35 years, it increased by about 115%. What was the population in 2005? Okay, we have this equation to find the amount of change, and really this equation comes from the percent change equation, and I will show you in class how we get the amount of change equation from the percent change equation. But basically we use our knowledge of how multiplication and division are related to get this equation. Amount of change is equal to the percent of change divided by 100, because we're taking the percentage and making it a decimal, and to go from percent to decimal we divide by 100. So the amount of change is equal to the percent change divided by 100 times the original amount. Okay, so let's find the amount of change. The amount of change is equal to the percent of change, which in the problem we are told that the grizzly bears increased 115%. Okay, so I'm taking the percent change and putting it over 100. Okay, and then I would multiply by the original amount. And what was the original amount? In 1970, how many grizzly bears were there? We are told there were 270 grizzly bears in 1970. Okay, so the amount of change is equal to, what's 115 divided by 100? Well, that's 1.15, right? And then we multiply by the original amount times 270 times 270, and 1.15 times 270. If we round this to the nearest whole number, because we're talking about grizzly bears, and you can't have a half of a grizzly bear, and so if we round to the nearest whole number, we would have 311, right? There was a 311 amount of change, amount increase in the grizzly bear population over this time span. Okay, and so to find how many grizzly bears were there in 2005, well, if we started at the original amount, if we started at 270 grizzly bears, and the grizzly bear population increased by this amount, if we started here and we increased or added 311 grizzly bears, well, what's 270 plus 311? That would be 581. Okay, so this 581 would be the population in 2005 of grizzly bears. The population in 2005 was about 581 grizzly bears.